want to talk about our wounding from our childhood today. And I want to talk about it in a very specific way, where it's kind of in the sense of who were your parents and what did you grow up in. So let's start from the beginning. My name is Marie, and I'm so happy that you're here in this channel and super psyched for all the new subscribers. Welcome in. I recently, a couple months ago, came across a list of things that you can experience if you've had parents or a father who were in a specific way. And all those things hit me like a brick in the chest. I was like, whoa, I can relate to all these things. So what it was talking about was how if we grow up with parents that are maybe mentally unhealthy in some way, or parents that are very reactive, like they get really angry at you for doing things, or parents that are kind of critical, then we grew up kind of in a chaotic situation. And when I was a child, I didn't know any of the terms of like indigo, starseeds, or empath. But now as an adult, I can deeply relate to all those things. And so what happens is we come into this world, we're highly sensitive beings. We're beings who have like the ability to pick up emotional sensitivity from our surroundings. We have the ability to maybe even tune in to our parents telepathically, know what's going on with them. So if we grow up in a home where maybe there's a lot of fighting or there's a lot of, unsettling, like unsafety, what we start to do is we start to develop a certain set of patterns. And we develop these patterns because we want to try to, well, one, make them feel better, and then two, not disturb them so they get angry at us. So what we start doing is we walk on eggshells, anyone? We tune into our parents' emotional field every single day, and we kind of scan them to figure out how they're doing today. I'll just tell you a story. My dad is a bipolar, and he was back then too, but hasn't been diagnosed until very recently. And so I would wake up every morning not knowing if he was going to be kind of in a depressive state where I had to be quiet and calm and not disturb him, or if he was going to be in one of his super active states where he wanted us to go help him carry something very early in the morning or go out on a trip or whatever it was. So my emotional system was always tuning to his emotional system. I'm sure that applies to you as well. If we have highly reactive parents, we respond by becoming the good girl or the good boy, right? We do really well in school, we get good grades, we try to be maybe athletic or maybe good in an instrument, and we try to do all these things to please our parents. So we kind of tune out of our own body into their system. If you understand what I mean. Like we're constantly scanning their system and we tune out of our own system. Our own system we use to make them happy. And I'm not trying to, blame anyone because, this is the world we live in and there's nothing wrong with our parents necessarily. It's just that it's good to start to see these things. So what then starts to end up happening as we become adults is we've learned to use our masculine energy, our thoughts, to try to control the small piece of our world that we have as children. And the control that we have is the one we have over ourselves, meaning that we can control our own behavior, we can control our own response, we can control that we're a good person, that we do well by society's standards. So we grow up with a ton of masculine energy in our head trying to control everything around us. And this is so normalized by society that nobody bats an eye when we're just like trying to forge ahead to get a career and get an education and like do all these things, right, from our headspace. Then we end up in a relationship older in life. And I'm talking about both females and males here. And we're so much in our masculine energy that we try to control them as well. We try to control the relationship, we try to control our family once we create one, right? And so we become these independent, perfectly behaving humans who are trying to micromanage everything around us. And eventually, you know what happens? We become very, very lonely because we no longer feel like we're connected to anything. We're so busy trying to figure out our life, trying to control our life, that we're we kind of, I'll tell you a story to just tie into this. So let's say you have a family and you start doing everything in the family, the controller that you are, the independent person, woman, man that you are. And you organize the laundry in a certain way, or the garage in a certain way. And then everyone comes to you saying, hey, where's this tool? Or where did you put this, piece of laundry? Or why haven't you washed my jeans? Or you name it. And so you feel like, why am I carrying this burden of everything? And it might be the same at work, right? You start to gather all this stuff, and then everybody comes to you and be like, hey, where's this? Where's that? And so you start to feel like you're disconnected from everything because you've tried to control everything so much. You haven't let anything go to anyone else. And you haven't let your feminine energy come in either, that says, hey, I can receive, I can relax, I can trust the universe. So we come to this point in our life and realize, wait, I gotta balance my feminine and my masculine energy. I gotta be as much of a doer as I am a beer. I gotta receive as much as I give. I have to control as much as I let go, right? And so now we're at this point where, and I think also as a society, because again, no one is to blame here. We've been living in this for tens of thousands of years, right? This masculine sort of thinking energy. Now we start to say, what can I do about this? How can I start to harmonize these things? And then you might come across things like the Heart Math Institute, which I'll leave the link below for that, where you have a meditation or a slow breathing where you connect your mind to your heart. And you do a couple of breaths, you do emotions, you gratitude and so on, and you start to connect those two neural centers so that they can make decisions together, so that you're not always up here, but you're also in here, right? And you're connecting those two together. So that's one beautiful thing that you can do, and I think it's amazing. Then maybe you start meditating and you start to realize, hey, I can start to trust the universe. Maybe you start doing prayer, maybe you start doing yoga, maybe you start just resting, or maybe you start doing diamond arts or tinkering with things so that you can relax your nervous system from the societal and childhood experience that you've had coming in as an extremely sensitive person and being put into this crazy earth where everyone is doing and making, and you finally say, hey, maybe I don't need to walk on eggshells anymore. Hey, maybe I don't need to tune into every single other person and see how they're doing. Maybe I should tune into me first and figure out how I am doing. And then I can see how other people are doing. So you start coming back to you. You start coming back to that child that was brought into this earth, that had all these capabilities, that had all these sensitivities, and you start to find your way back to you. So this doesn't happen overnight. Most of the time, it happens through a lot of dedication, a lot of insight. First you got to be aware this is even happening to you. Maybe I'm triggering a bunch of people because they're like, oh, I'm not like that. I triggered myself when I was first coming across this, right? I'm like, oh, but then, yeah, I am like that. So now we move into a space of becoming whole again, of becoming ourselves again, of remembering that, hey, I'm a really sensitive empath, indigo, starseed, whatever you relate to, that came here to actually be me, to figure out who I am, to figure out my emotional field, to figure out the abilities that I have to connect to other people. Maybe you have incredible abilities of telepathy or, feeling into nature, being able to communicate with animals. But you pushed all those down through that masculine only thinking energy. And now you got to come back into your feminine energy. And again, speaking about both males and females here, because we all have that energy. We just need to come back into center again. And I believe that as a society, we're all doing that right now. We're coming back into realization that, our softness, our emotions are actually our biggest guidance system. It is our intuition telling us, hey, maybe you should go in this direction. Hey, maybe you should call this person. Hey, maybe you should try out this class. That's not the mind. That's the heart talking. That's the feminine energy talking, right? Or hey, maybe you do need to rest today. Who ever heard of such a thing? Resting, right? No, I gotta be doing. I really hope you got something out of this video. It was a pleasure to be here with you today on this beautiful day, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.